Now, for some political reaction to the Reserve Bank's decision, I spoke to the Shadow Treasurer, Ted O'Brien, a short time ago. Ted O'Brien, thanks for joining us. Not a huge surprise that interest rates remain on hold, but just to seeking your general reaction to that announcement.
Stephanie, great to be with you, by the way. No surprise, but still every bit as disappointing as it could be, especially for mortgage holders as they go to Christmas, only a couple of weeks away. It's the last thing they want to hear. But I think the market and the public, moreover, were expecting that the RBA's decision today would be what it is.
So 3 rate cuts over 2025. In your view, is that enough? Is that a good run?
No, I think the real problem here is Australians were set an expectation by the government that interest rates would be coming down, that inflation had been beaten, but the government was wrong. In fact, the government has misled the Australian people. And so the average mortgage holder is paying $1,800 more every single month in interest payments than they were only a few years ago under the Coalition. So this is really impacting families at the same time that real wages have been going down under this government. So they're being squeezed. Prices going up, real wages going down. If Australians are feeling poorer, well, all the statistics say it is because they are poorer, and that's a direct consequence of government policy.
Well, what is a policy then that could turn that around? Have you got a suggestion for the government about what they should do?
I've got 2, Stephanie. Number 1, they need to stop the spending spree, and number 2, they need to start growing the economic pie. As we've heard from I don't know how many economists, as we've heard even from the RBA governor, when you see spending so high, when you see deficits being run, that ultimately does put pressure on inflation, it puts pressure on interest rates. And so the number 1 thing that the Treasurer needs to do is to stop his spending spree. That's his main task.
So you say government spending is too high, but looking at the notes from the RBA today, it doesn't mention anything about public spending being a factor.
Look, it was actually a very short note, by the way, but it has been commented on by most economists that the number 1 problem in the economy is the government spending.
But not talking about economists, I'm talking today about the RBA's note. From what I can see, there's nothing there.
As I'm speaking to you now, as a pre-record, we haven't heard what the Governor herself says. I'm sure if somebody poses a question like they did last week in Senate estimates, she'll give a similar answer. When a government runs deficits, when it keeps spending money, then all other things being equal, that just pushes up inflation. And when you have high inflation, you can't reduce your interest rates. This is the problem the bank faces, which is why today's news is bad news for everyday Australians, but it's not the fault of the bank itself. This really is the fault of government.
Now, bracket creep still remains a problem. We've seen the government announce those tax cuts, but do you think they should go even further?
Well, the government does talk about its tax cuts, but to put it in perspective, those tax cuts might give back around about $270 a year. Meanwhile, the everyday taxpayer is paying an additional $5,000 a year compared to when the Coalition was in government only a few years ago. And so this is the problem. The government, because of its spending spree, is doing 2 things. 1, it is taxing Australians more, and 2, it's racking up debt, which will hit about $1 trillion over coming months.
Now, turning to another matter, still sort of within economy, so to speak, there's been a huge focus on travel entitlements in the recent week, also specifically around Communications Minister Anika Wells speaking about family travel entitlements. According to documents, it appears that you flew your family to Newcastle in August of 2022. Do you believe that not only was that within the rules, but, does it meet community standards?
Absolutely, I do. And I'm glad you raised it because I think there's a stark contrast between how most parliamentarians treat these entitlements and how the Minister has treated the entitlements herself. In the case you raise about me, I've been a parliamentarian for around 9 years now. Every year, the multiple trips that you can avail yourself to. Only on one occasion, I believe, did I avail myself there, and that was not in a capital city to see major sporting events or anything like that. It was in a regional area where I was working at the time, where in a period of time where I was rarely at home. My wife and children flew economy down, flew economy home, so that we could spend time together, and time we spent together. In contrast, you have the minister who has spent, over $100,000 on a New York trip. You're talking about nearly $2,000 dining in Paris. You're talking 7 hours at the tennis while a Commonwealth vehicle waits for her. The expression pub test is used for a reason. Whether it's in entitlements or not is something else. From a pub test point of view, it's up to the Australian public to say what's reasonable. There's a reason why these entitlements exist. It is so families can spend time together. That's what it's all about. Now, I'm very happy with my record being put to the pub test. The minister's record has to be put to the pub test. I think her judgment has lapsed, and I'm very surprised that the Prime Minister has also had a lapse of judgment by saying everything is prim and proper in this regard.
So you say that all of your family flew economy. Under the rules, as you'll be aware, spouses are allowed to fly business class within Australia. So keeping on that theme then of the pub test that you're talking about, should maybe the rules be altered a little bit? I mean, do spouses really need to travel business class within Australia? Does that pass the pub test?
Oh, look, I'll leave it for others to judge.
No, not for others to judge. I'm asking you. Politicians all have opinions on plenty of things, so just asking for your opinion on if it passes the pub test.
I hear you, if you just allow me to answer. I'll let others make their own judgments as to what's appropriate or not. While I don't typically talk about my own family matters, I will on this occasion. There's a reason often in these situations where economy, I think, is appropriate, and that's because I've got little kids, and I don't think they should be flying business class. I don't want them to get in the habit of flying business class, even if they can. I would prefer they fly economy, and when mum and dad is with them, we're flying economy too. So that's a personal matter. I make no judgment of any other family doing it differently. That is the way my wife and I decide to manage things.
But do you think that, business class flights should be offered to spouses? You've been talking about the pub test. This is a perfect pub test question.
I have no problem with spouses being treated like a parliamentarian. If your husband or your wife is a parliamentarian and you have a reunion with him or her, I think equality of treatment is key there. If a family like mine decides, especially with kids, to fly economy, then that's our decision. I don't judge others in that regard, so I'll leave it there, Stephanie.
OK, we'll just turn to one more topic before I do let you go. We are expecting the Coalition to release its migration policy. What do you think the problem is with migration at the moment? That's sort of the message that we're getting from the Liberal Party, that things have to change. Why is that the case?
Look, I think the key problem when it comes to immigration is the government has lost control, and therefore the people have lost confidence.
Lost control in what sense? How have they lost control? Well,
this is the typical problem, can I be candid, with Labor governments. They lose control of your borders in whatever shape or form. In this case, when you have over 1 million people coming to the country in a 2-year period, at a time when transport infrastructure is not keeping up, housing is not available, essential services are strained, the government is missing its own targets with the number of people coming into Australia, it's lost control.
So how much does that
Australians...
How much then do you think the migration rate has to be cut then? Because that sort of seems to be the message coming through from your party.
Well, again, we're not going to be announcing specific numbers at this point, but what we will be doing under Susan's leadership and the great work done by Senator John O'Doniam and also Senator Paul Scar, is laying out the principles of the approach we will take to ensure that we can have Australia return to controlling immigration. And once we have immigration controlled by government, I believe the people will have confidence in the system again. That's the key objective to my mind here.
Well, we'll wait to see what the Liberal policy is, hopefully maybe this week or next.
Indeed.
Ted O'Brien, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie.